Well, it is Sunday, and that means it is time for a brand new episode of Long Box Punk. That's me, I'm Chris. And if you are tuning in on YouTube Live or for the very first time on the Rolling Squid Bones Facebook page, I want to say hello, special shout out to you and welcome. I also want to thank my guest on this episode, which is Jon Santana. Jon, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'm glad that our calendars aligned and we were able to get you here.
Yeah. I appreciate you for inviting me and having me on your show.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to talk to creators that are putting out awesome comics. And through Iron Age comics, you've hit stories that hit all sorts of different genres. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the newest Kickstarter that you're about to launch tomorrow for NSF West.
That's right.
And then we're also, I got to ask you about Deadhead with slashers against slashers. I got to ask you about what's coming in September with the Watson versus Holmes. There's a whole lot coming out from Iron Age right now. And so I want to dig into all of it with you. But first, as we are a comic book podcast, we got to start with your origin story. How did you get into comics? Where did this begin for you? How did we end up? How did Iron Age come to be?
Oh, that's a great question. So, I guess comics started for me when I was 7 years old, when my uncle introduced me to collecting. So I've been a collector and an avid reader my whole life, basically. That love for comics and I won't give away my age, but my 7-year-old time frame to my early teens was about when Image Comics hit, the mainstream. And that was a big influence on me. Image, like other people, human beings that were just comic creators, made their own company, made their own comic books. That was a big factor in establishing who I was as a creator, and being so young when it happened. And then just a couple years later, when I was 14 years old, my first job was in a comic book shop in Poughkeepsie, New York, called Dragon's Den. That's awesome. So much fun. It was a really important part of my life, but it is a terrible first job for a child to have when you're a comic book reader, because I didn't make any money. I put it all back into the comic book shop.
Yeah.
But I will credit the employees at the shop, the clerks, the guys who just talk comics, who taught me about. I mean, I grew up on Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, Avengers. They're the ones who taught me Sandman, Swamp Thing, Watchmen, and how writers are so important to comics and what makes comics great. And that was something I felt I could do. I was never good at drawing, so writing is always something that I could do. So that all is the seeds that were planted in my origin story. And then when I went to college, I had these grand ideas of being a filmmaker. I went to film school, SUNY Purchase, and I graduated with a screenwriting degree in the theater and film arts program. And I just wanted to go to Hollywood, but I started family early. You can't just pick up and move to Hollywood when you've got a family. So I ended up in the Army. And the only thing I could figure out how to do on my free time, I couldn't figure out how to break into movie business, which even people with lots of free time can't figure that out. But I knew I was a good writer, and I loved writing, and I had great ideas. So I said, I always love comics. Let me make some comics. So as early as 2008, 2009, I started dabbling, friends of friends who knew people who were inkers in the industry. And then that turned into meeting somebody who was a great artist in the industry and just making comics for me, then making comics for local comic shops. Then when Kickstarter came around in 2011, I launched my first Kickstarter campaign called Jaded. I will always love Jaded as my very first book that I put out in the world. That was very much without ever having seen or heard of The Boys, because I wrote it in 2009, launched it in 2011. It was it was sort of like The Boys, and that jaded superheroes with serious flaws, behind the scenes, doing messed up things. Not quite as perverse as The Boys, but there was a lot of gore in that, and it was a lot of fun to write. So, I mean, one thing just led to the other. Over the years since 2011, every couple of years, I would do another Kickstarter. I'd make another comic book, usually Jaded books. And then I want to say 2021, I had 2020 was my first failed Kickstarter, and it was not in comics. It was in a subscription box called the Haunted Box. You might recognize that name because it failed as a subscription service because we couldn't figure out the logistics, like storing all the material and all the inventory and how to make that affordable. It became too much. But we had already, when I say we, I mean Deadhead writer AC Medina, Abattoir 6 writer Mina Elwell, and Abattoir 6 writer AC Medina as well. We all came together to do the subscription box, and we just transformed it into a comic book since we already had school. So Haunted Box was like the reintroduction of Iron Age to Kickstarter and the public. And what really, for all best senses of the word, kickstarted Iron Age was the concept of getting other people together besides me to make comics. So I was a sole writer before, and I would hire on artists. Now that I could bring on other writers and publish their work in the anthology Haunted Box, I realized I am organizing and managing teams of creators, just like I manage teams in the Army as an officer. And I thought, well, if I keep making comics this way and making my own comics, that makes me a publisher, not just in name, but in actual fact. So I brought that idea to the other two writers that I was working with, Alan, AC, and Mina, and they loved it. And they came together with a pitch for Abattoir 6. And Mina had a previous project with Scout that she had recouped the rights to, and she wants to do a second volume. So I released early this year Infernoct Volume 1 under the Iron Age label as a full graphic novel. And that really brought Iron Age back into Iron Age 2.0. And boy, I have been rocking and rolling since. I have 7 projects this year. NSF West will be, this is only July. NSF West will be project 4 that I'm launching this year already. And I've got more. I've got more coming. So I went into full-blown production mode, and I'm very excited to make all these books happen.
That's cool. I love the like utilizing and thank you for service in the Army. I appreciate the being willing to stand up in that way. Like I love hearing that you're using skills that you were using in the Army and like applying those to comics. I like, for some reason that just stood out to me as like, man, that's insane. Like that's something I would never expect to hear of, going from like,
so if you heard my, sorry to interrupt you because there's a little bit.
No, you're good. You're good.
But if you heard my origin story, but my secret superpower is really the blending of my creative skills that I honed all these years since college when I graduated with a writing degree, and all the military service and leadership that I've learned, and management skills, large teams of people, sometimes very large teams of people, through logistics, through operations, through missions, and combining those two skills. I thought, man, I am uniquely qualified to be a leader, publisher, and creator in a way that I don't see in publishing writ large. I don't see the focus on, okay, how can I take management teams and put together a plan? The reason I have 7 coming out this year is not because I'm doing anything creatively special. I would even venture to say I'm not working that much harder than I did in previous years. It was just a mindset change. It was, let me apply military leadership and management of teams by creating what we call in the Army a horse blanket. A horse blanket is just a ridiculous spreadsheet of death that has a timeline and all the tasks lined up and who needs to do all the tasks: writers, cover artists, colorists, the contract work for lawyers, everything that has to be done for a campaign and for retail, all together, lined up in sequence. And I just applied it to the whole calendar. And I'm like, oh, this is what I do Monday through Friday. I'm just doing it for comics. And it was just unlocked something in my mind. Like, this is great. This is absolutely great. And then, with the cash flow, I can help use a Kickstarter to fund the next Kickstarter, and just keep it rolling and keep making comic books. And I'm in heaven, Chris. I love it.
I mean, that's the dream. Like the fact that you have 7 projects, like no one's no one's doing that volume in the indie space, because each project takes so much like lead up and ramp up time and work and logistic, like all of those things. I mean, having 7, and this is already going to be your 4th this year in July, like it just speaks to your like efficiency in coordinating all of those pieces. Like that's crazy, man. That's something that I would
Yeah,
strive, I would love to be able to do. 7 Kickstarters a year, but like hats
I
off to
can't
you,
say
because
it's
that's
easy. I
right.
can't say it's easy, but it feels like the same level of manageable stress that I deal with at work. It's just
Mm,
towards something that I have a passion for. Not that I don't have a passion for the military, but man, I've been in 26 years. That's a long time.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
I'm looking towards I'm looking towards retirement in the next 2 years or so, and that's really what I'm ramping up towards. The reason I'm pushing 7 Kickstarters this year is because I really want snowball effect to grow, so that as I'm transitioning out of the Army, I can transition full time to publishing, and then 7 will become a piece of cake, and I'll have something bigger to work with.
That's awesome. And like that's just really good planning, like on top of it all. So I I man, the way that your mind works is quite impressive to me, who is like just over
Thank
here
you.
like, ooh, I want to do all the things. Where do I start? I don't know. Just do all the things at the same time. And there's and then I end up with like half started projects all over the place. But the list thing, like I'm a sucker for lists. And so I love that, like, that's a thing that you were using of who needs to do what and at what time, and creating like those timelines. Because once I put my brain matter into a list and get it organized, then suddenly I can see it and I can make sense of it. So it like, I'm just going to try and make more, like increase my own efficiencies with list making, and that I've never used it in that sense of like who needs to be doing what and at what point. So I'm definitely going to look into
Oh,
how I can apply this.
the critical part of the list is not just making it, and not just making it clear and concise, but it's sharing it with the rest of the team and holding
Mm,
everybody accountable to deadlines and timelines. What's great about it is it helps the rest of the team hit their deadlines because they can see the bigger picture. It's not an arbitrary deadline. It's not,
yeah,
John said June, but as long as I get it by July, how mad is he really be? Then they see, oh, if I don't get it in time in June, look at the domino effect of all these other creators whose names are on the spreadsheet that I'm going to, let down by me not turning my work in time. So there's a
yeah.
team effort there, that a synergy that is important for any team. That is part of the spreadsheet of doom. That's part of why it works.
That's cool. Yeah, I love that a lot. Because it like it's there's something to be said about unifying towards the same vision, and so having that in everybody's hands allows everybody to see the exact same thing, and there's no like confusion or, well, I thought it was July. Like, no, we've said 17 times it's June. Like it's there on the sheet, and so there's no questioning what's written in black and white. That's clarity gives like
Right.
freedom to be able to act when you need to. I'm a big, like, I like seeing the bigger
Yeah,
picture.
absolutely.
I got to see the top of the puzzle box to be able to build my piece of the puzzle. So, yeah, all of that. I guess I just was like in a brain space coming into this that I didn't even realize of like, how do I make things? And suddenly that just makes so much sense to me. So thank you for sharing that, John. I appreciate that. I'm love doing the show because I'm always learning. So, so you've got, so let's talk about the year so far. So you've had 3 projects that have
Okay.
launched, that have all successfully funded. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So, like, what is it like on as the publisher that has teams that are like, are you the one that's running those Kickstarter campaigns, or is that on the creative team that runs it and then you handle fulfillment? Like, what's it like for you as the publisher to say like, yeah, we've had 3 successfully funded Kickstarters this year.
I'm glad you asked that. So, Infernoct, I run all the campaigns. To answer the first part of your call, I run all the campaigns. I'm going to continue to run the campaigns until I have a process down that I'm comfortable with that I can hand off to somebody else. So I'm running the campaigns. I'm also running fulfillment, and I live close enough to Mina, another one of the creators, that she came and helped me with the Infernoct fulfillment since she was the writer on Infernoct. Abattoir 6, it will be the same, but both Infernoct, Abattoir 6, and then the subsequent Deadhead were all properties. They're the first ones that I am publishing that I'm not the creator on, not the main creator. Before that, Jaded, and I had some other projects that I didn't kickstart, like Everhounds and Wordsmith, that we will be doing Kickstarters of in the future and sequels for. But because I really wanted to be able to get more done, I wanted to focus first on properties that I'm not the writer of, so I can flex that time and really understand how to balance the schedule and timeline without having to spend too much time writing, even though that's my favorite part of the process, is to be the writer and come up with stuff. But there's plenty of stuff that I've written that is coming out. It's just giving me that time to balance and write, so that when it comes time to launch the other books, like Watson v. Holmes, for example, which I'm very excited for, it'll be done, it'll be complete, it'll be stress-free. And then I'm going to also, of course, fulfill that campaign, launch that campaign.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. That's the plan.
That's cool. And so, like, let's talk about then, like, the Nubile Strike Force West. I love all of the acronyms that as I was looking at the Kickstarter page.
There's so many acronyms. Listen, so did you get a chance to look at the Kickstarter page? The link that I sent you?
Yeah, I checked out the preview.
Okay. Cool.
I think it's a super clean page, like the way that you've got it laid out with the preview pages, even in the paragraph descriptions that, like, for the story build up, it's got the, like, it leans into the comedy, that, like, G.I. Joe satire aspect of it, even just in those little, like, paragraphs between the preview pages or some of the character design that's there. And so, like, even it, as a whole,
I'm so glad. I was actually nervous. I'm so glad that you picked up on it. It was a hard thing to balance the tone, because one of the things for NSF West that I am very aware of and very concerned about is the boobage. Let's just put it out there. All right. The TNA aspect, which is exactly the lure of the advertising. It's the lure of the covers of the book. It's the lure of the book itself. But as you saw in the trigger warning up front, it's a trap. It's totally a trap. So the concept behind NSF West is, it is pro-feminine. It is anti-misogyny, but it uses tropes of naughty comic books and those naughty girl comic books that I'll be honest with you, I don't want to alienate people, especially people who want to pick up NSF West, but I just got to be honest. I hated those. I hate what it did to Kickstarter. I hated it to indie comics community in a general sense. I'm not saying that there are none of them that are good and that there's none of them that have satire or subtext, which is what I'm trying to do with NSF West. But a lot of them are just, can I just be honest? A lot of them are crap. They make a lot of money and there's no substance. And that bothered me to my core. And I talked with other creators and it bothered them too. And before I connected with JoJo, the writer of NSF West, which I felt like I needed a female writer for this one, I was feeling down. I was feeling bad about myself, because I wanted I wanted to make more money in Kickstarters, but I just wanted to get more. I wanted to get more attention. And I'm like, man, and the G.I. Joe had at the time, now it's been usurped by Transformers, but the G.I. Joe Kickstarter last year was like the #1 all-time performing Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And I'm driving home one day, and I'm like, the only way I'm ever going to get attention or make money on Kickstarter is if I do a G.I. Joe book with boobs. And then I almost crashed my car. I'm like, that's genius. That's genius. And just like with the military stuff, I'm uniquely qualified because I know I have a passion for G.I. Joe. That's one of the first comics I ever read as a kid. And I joined the Army because of G.I. Joe. I've told Larry Hama that every time I see him, just in case he forgets. Every time I see him and shake his hand, I'm like, you inspired me to join the military. So a unique love and knowledge of the toys and the comic books and the cartoons, everything. I'm a big G.I. Joe fan. And I'm a big Mel Brooks fan. So the comedy, the dumb fun that's on the surface, I needed somebody to really be able to get subtext and subtle humor in there too, and stuff that makes you really think twice about what you're reading. Beyond, like, maybe you're laughing, and then after the fact, you start to think about, wait a second, is that aimed at me? That's what I really wanted to go for. So I reached out to an old friend. Her name is JoJo Cologne. I always found her to be a very subversive writer, and she's taken it and run with it. Like, I crack up out loud with some of the stuff she came up with. I will take credit where credit is due. I'm happy to take credit for some of the dumb names of the characters, but the dialogue she writes and the situations, like, just crack me up. And I'm having such a good time reading it as it comes in and watching the art. Jamar is amazing. If you can't tell by the Kickstarter campaign and those pages, I hate to say it, you're blind, because he reminds me of Kevin Maguire. I honestly think he's that good with facial expressions, and that's such a part of comedy. And he really sells it. And then to round out our team, we've got an amazing colorist in Randy Moses. He's just a friend of Jamar's that came on board, and we are rocking and rolling with this art. The campaign to showcase that. That's why there's so much artwork in the story portion of the campaign, and even in the rewards, I've got artwork supporting the rewards.
Yeah, and like when I look at a Kickstarter, those are the things that I look at first. Is like, I want to see what I can expect. Like, what does the book look like? What do the rewards look like? You know, even if it's in process stuff. Like, we just wrapped on my first Kickstarter, and there were some things that when we launched, that we didn't have ready yet. And so it was like, we put up the in process covers and just clearly were like, this isn't final. We just didn't have it yet, but the time was right to launch. And so, like, I like seeing.
Yeah, you see, I got a couple of those too. I got some black and white covers that we're waiting on colors for.
Yeah. And it just, like, I think it's still important that adds that authenticity and that transparency of, you know, like, hey, we're actively working on this. And, you know, I don't want to withhold anything from you because it's not 100% done, but here's the inks. Like, we don't have colors yet. It still gives that, like, oh, cool. You know, it's, I don't know, for me, that enhances my trust in the creative team with the willingness to show unfinished, like an unfinished product. It just, I don't know. I can't put it into words. It just is like, oh yeah, okay, they're still working on it. Cool. Like, I like that they're sharing that they're still working. Yeah. Instead of, you know, trying to, oh yeah, we have everything's 100%. And then you back it. And then you find out after you back it, like, whoa, except for this list of, you know, 80 things that we haven't done yet. Like, right. Yeah, the bait and switch type of thing. So I know you mentioned the hesitancy with, like, all of the curvy, the boobs that are on display and everything like that. Like, was it purely I want to make a satire that leans into, like, G.I. Joe and also kind of also poke fun at, like, the recent boom of boob comics that are on Kickstarter? Like, is that what was kind of driving you to, like, seek out the story?
Exactly. The only way that I could come to terms with doing a Naughty Girl book was to make fun of Naughty Girl books. And I also had to come to terms with the fact that a good parody knows the genre and knows what they're playing with.
Yeah.
And I felt like the only thing I knew of the genre was covers because that's what they do. They just sell you on covers. So while I do have a lot of covers, that's the point. That's what we're making fun of. We're not just making fun of the books, we're making fun of the campaigns. And if I do say so, the way that it's written stands on its own for satire and comedy. I have no hatred for any of the creators who do any of those books. There's full on X-rated adult comic books that more power to them, especially if they can come up with a story. I know, oh my God, his name is escaping me right now. Oh, he does cheeky comics. What? Oh, I can't believe I forgot his name. Anyway, he does full adult comics, and they're actually really good. They're like poetic. Like, I met him at a convention. I picked one of them up, and I'm like, oh, you can do good stuff in this genre if you understand what you're doing with comic books. So that's something I'll tip my hat to. But I also have no problem making fun of the tropes, and we have plenty of the tropes. And I think what JoJo has really done that was really unique about it is she made the villain, her name is General Nat Disaster, Nat as a natural disaster, because she's an all-natural woman with like hairy armpits and her bushes coming out of her uniform. Like, it's that, and she's heavy set. Like, that's the leader of the bad guys, all right? She's like Cobra Commander mixed with Baroness who eats a lot of cheeseburgers. That's what she's like. But one trope from 80s cartoons that I loved, Skeletor, Megatron, Cobra Commander, they have this one line that they all said that they have in common. And that's, I'm surrounded by idiots. I'm surrounded by morons.
Yeah.
But what was funny about that is there were also idiots and morons. They weren't the brightest bulbs either, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, what if I had a villain character in a comedy book that was actually the smartest person in the room? Really, like really bright, really sharp. And is somebody that, as the book goes on, was somebody that could be empathetic to the audience. And I said that to JoJo. And boy, if she doesn't write her with like not just empathy, but she's basically a villainess. She's a leader of a terrorist organization that is not trying to take over the world, is trying to replace all the heads of state with women. Her goal is to take out all the male leadership around the world and replace it with women. So it's an ultra feminist goal. But that's on the surface. She's actually more interested in power, control, and money. And she's using feminism as a political disguise for her own personal agenda, which is what politicians do, which is what high-level leaders do, which is the real evil. So she's an evil genius in that she's convinced her own organization that it's for feminist goals, when in fact, she's just taking a Nazi feminist, ultra-liberal agenda, pushing it forward, and really, in her own mind, she's a capitalist evil genius.
That's awesome.
And the other characters won't figure it out. And even the good guys are dense compared to Nat Disaster. They're just a fighting team that can't wait to get their rocks off by shooting the bad guys. And it's just so funny to watch JoJo in action, especially with Jomar's facial expressions. I mean, he is a whiz. He's just a genius with the facial expression. So
awesome.
it's all coming together, and I, as a fan, I'm enjoying it. I can't wait for fans to read along, enjoy, and laugh along. I am kind of preparing myself for maybe those comic book readers that don't sense or don't realize that it is subversive and it really does have a feminist message might see the jiggling flesh and see the feminist agenda being subverted as a negative thing. But I'm worried about that. I'm also worried about the opposite, right? I'm not comparing myself to Dave Chappelle because that man is a genius. But and I know politically he's doing his own thing recently, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Chappelle Show, the way he exited the Chappelle Show, because his comedy was subversive. But what happened was that people who followed his comedy didn't realize that they weren't in on the joke, and they were using the lines that he would use in his comedy to be racist, not realizing that his comedy was anti-racist. So there's a little bit of that worry there too, where all right, maybe the majority of the fans will be the ones that are only taking it on the surface level. But I've had a long talk with JoJo and Jamar and Randy about this, and we have all come to the agreement we're just going to do what's funny to us. We're just going to do what we like. And I'll tell you, Jamar has had so many hysterical ideas that we've incorporated, and he gets it.
That's cool.
There's a character named Heartbreaker. There's a character. Oh, let me show you here. I have a preview right here.
Nice.
And let me show you a page with Heartbreaker here on a bike. This is her, right? He came up with the fact that she's got a motorcycle. She's a tinkerer, and the motorcycle transforms into a weapon. And every time it transforms into the weapon and fires off, see, she's transforming it right there.
Yeah.
Right. She's still working on it in the background. Missile system. And every time it fires off missiles or more ammunition, the bike gets smaller. So the next time she transforms it, it's now a Vespa. And now she's driving around on a combat Vespa. And then she transforms it into a missile launcher. And then it's smaller now because more pieces have just ejected. So then it transforms into a little scooter. Now she's riding around on a battle scooter. Like, it's just
That's awesome.
It's so ridiculous. And so funny. And I just enjoy watching the team at work. I just do.
Yeah, that's great. That's so fitting to with the whole like comedy satire piece as well, because so many of the like 80s action comics and action movies, of course, which are over the top, never address the like actual functionality of things. It's just like, oh yeah, well, of course the motorcycle turns into a missile launcher and back again. And like, it's never questioned like, where did the missiles come from? And after you shoot them, like,
where did the missiles come from?
What? Yeah, like, so to address that in that way is so smart. To like, that's so fun. I love that. So with
and that very description that I gave you with the vet included, the last cover that you don't see yet, that's not on the page yet because it's a really great artist named Nina Rufino, but I asked her too late. She's already turned in the inks. They look incredible. It's her it's Heartbreaker on the Vespa, blowing a big old bubblegum bubble, driving into battle. Explosions all behind her in this tiny little vroom vroom Vespa. I can't wait till that's done and I can show it.
That's great. Yeah, and I saw like you delayed the initial planned launch from the 4th to tomorrow, because you're adding new tiers. Like, what were those tiers that you were adding? What was it that additional like variant cover?
No, that variant cover is going to be a stretch goal. That will be if we hit a certain stretch goal, we'll make it available as an add-on. No, the additional tier was I don't want to say it was a last-minute idea, but the artist was able to find the time to crank out 2 covers for this idea. And I think this idea is nuts in a good way. He wanted to do a puzzle cover. He wanted to do a connecting cover like X-Men #1, right? Jim Lee's X-Men #1.
Yep.
But just 2 covers, right? And I thought, we can do it all, man. I know you don't have time, but how about? And this is not. And I pitched it out there, hoping that he would go for it, and he did bite. Issue 1, we're gonna have 2 covers: a left cover and a right cover. And the bad guys on the left and the good guys on the right, and they're facing each other, just like X-Men #1. You got Magneto on one side and like Wolverine and Colossus on the other, right?
Yep.
And they're facing each other. That's issue 1, right? Connect cover. Issue 2, we'll do this cover and this cover. And issue 3, do this cover and this cover.
No
And we're going to
way.
keep going. We're going to
That's
keep
awesome.
going. And you heard it right here, folks. I don't think anybody's going to care about little old Jon Santana Iron Age comics. Nobody's going to take me seriously. But just watch this space. We're going to hit the Guinness Book of World Records for largest connecting puzzle cover in history. Because by the time I hit issue 12, we'll have 24 goddamn covers that all connect side by side. That is awesome and hysterically ridiculous at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I
right
want
on
to be able to wrap my living room. I want to wrap my living room in just a giant battle. Just keep going.
That's so
why
awesome.
not? Why stop? Just keep going.
Yeah.
And see how far we can take it. That it will definitely motivate me, amongst many other reasons, to keep making NSF West books.
That's so good.
And I have such a unique love for this property, which is basically a naughty girl book, which I always thought I hated and that would never do. And here I am doing one. I'm enjoying the shit out of it because the characters have ridiculous names, they have ridiculous functionality, but they fit the G.I. Joe mold. They are G.I. Joe characters through and through, with punny names and ridiculous twists, but they are G.I. Joe. They could fit in the G.I. Joe universe. Absolutely.
That's awesome. So the plan is for a 12-issue run, or is that just like the initial target?
No,
And then
the plan is ongoing. The plan is an ongoing book. And I don't want to say different or unique about me, because I don't know if that's true. What's different and unique about Iron Age is nothing's going to stop me. I don't care if I have a failed campaign. I'm still making the next one. Nothing is going to stop me because I'm having too much fun. I as a fan, want to read what comes next. So there is nothing that I put out that I'm not willing to see through to the end. There are some books that do have an end arc, 4 issues. Like right now, we got 4 volumes, which is actually 8 issues of Deadhead we've planned for.
Okay.
I told those creators, I am here to see this through. It does not matter if the campaign doesn't hit. We're going to see this through to the end. I'm going to make sure it happens because that's my training. I don't fail missions. I don't give up.
Yeah.
If you make a mistake, figure it out and you just keep going. You just put your head down and you charge forward and you just keep going. So everything that I've started this year, I'm going to see through to the end, no matter what. Which gives me courage, which motivates me. A little scary to my bank account, but we will make it happen. And the Kickstarter campaign, that's what it's for. It's going to help. Even if it doesn't offset the cost completely of every campaign, even if I have a successful campaign, but I didn't really raise enough funds for that series, it will help enough to allow me to keep going. And I have total faith in the backers who back. I believe that Iron Age has shown with 100% Kickstarter campaigns, this is really going to be number 9 if you count my original Kickstarter account that I started in 2011, which I changed my email address, and I thought that I needed a new Kickstarter account, and I haven't touched that one in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
But it's still there, and I still have 2 successful campaigns on that. So we're going on number 9 now, and I've had successful campaigns on there. So I have faith that we'll continue having successes. Now, I have faith that those successes will raise enough money, if not more than enough money, to pay for every one of those campaigns and beyond. And the other new thing that I'd like to announce, I can't get into too many details about the who and the how.
Sure.
Because I've been told not to. But I can say that we will be distributed worldwide coming end of this year, Iron Age.
That's awesome.
I'll be in retail shops. So beyond Kickstarter, I'll be in retail shops, starting back with Haunted Box. That'll be the first one. Actually, let me show a picture of the Haunted Box real quick. Haunted Box is literally a box, and it's a comic book. It's a 2-inch folio that holds 9 copies. The purpose of this is Haunted Box number 1 was magazine size, and a retailer complained to me that no collectors really like magazine size because they don't have comic boxes to fit it. And so I discovered a problem that I wanted to solve. So I said, okay, it's called the Haunted Box. Let me give them a box. They don't have to worry about having a comic book box because they can put this on their shelf and they can collect 9 issues of Haunted Box this way.
Yeah.
So Haunted Box number 1, a couple of variant covers in it. It has a unique feature. I'll show you an open one. That is a die cut.
Oh man, that's
case.
slick.
So you slide issue number 1 in and out, and it fits the die cut perfectly.
Dude, that's so nice.
So that'll be our first release retail stores. It's actually coming out in October in retail shops.
Okay.
Very excited about that. And because we've got enough lead time built into Deadhead and NSF West and Abattoir 6, we'll be able to do monthly. That's a quarterly book. But monthly starting November after that, we're going to launch right into Deadhead and then Abattoir 6 and then Inferno and all of them. And we'll have, by next year, we'll have some monthly books coming out, including NSF West.
That's so awesome, dude. Congrats. Like, that's a huge milestone. So congrats on getting that worldwide distribution.
I'm not afraid to tell you that when I got the contract in the email, I cried. Literally. Not right away, because I was so busy doing the Deadhead campaign.
Yeah.
But about half an hour later, I went to send an email. And as I wrote the email, I realized it hit me, the weight of it. This is what I've been working for since 2011, really. You know, part-time, a little bit here, a little bit there. But I've been working towards this goal. And it's the bottom rung of a totally different ladder. But I'm on that ladder. And, dude, the tears just came. The tears just, I sat here in this chair. And I was like, holy shit. We made it. We did it. It's a whole other thing to learn and figure out how to succeed at. But this is what we wanted. This is amazing. And it felt so, so good.
That's cool. Yeah. I also, you mentioned Deadhead. You did something I don't think I've ever seen on another comic book Kickstarter where you had those action figures made with the full like plastic bubble dress, and there were even remarks that you could get on the packaging. Like,
so that I stumbled into that. So the really? Prototype I cannot show you. Yeah. This is the packaging though. Right? The packaging is all made here in house. I ordered it obviously from existing packaging, but this will come with a copy of Deadhead number 1, the wraparound cover version, hollow foil in the back.
Nice.
And I do have one with remarks. This is what one of the remarks looks like from Ryan G. Brown. He's an amazing remark artist, but we have remarks available from some of the other cover artists as well. That I just serendipity is how that happened. It was like 6 weeks before launch, and a friend of mine said, because I was talking action figures for NSF West. I said, if I only knew somebody who made action figures. And she goes, I know somebody. I said, really? She goes, yeah, I went to school with them at the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. You can always reach out. So I reached out to him, and I told him the timeline, and he goes, yeah, I think his name is Peter. And he goes, yeah, I think I can make it happen, John. This is what I need. And so, I told you about the spreadsheet of doom. Once I lock into a process, or if I don't understand the process, I ask enough questions so I can break down the process. I just peppered him with questions. I'm like, okay. Control art. Control art is what the artist needs to do. So you have the front and the side view and the back of the character so that the sculptor can sculpt it. And there's certain things like how many points of articulation and all this stuff that I had to learn and make decisions on. What size is the figure going to be? And all that stuff. Yeah. And I just looked at what the deadlines would be in order to get this to be done on time, given Peter's schedule. And we just made it happen. It just happened. We just did it. And Peter happened to be an amazing sculptor who's worked on, he's worked on MTV with, I think it was RuPaul's Robot Chicken. He did work for WWE. Like he's done commercials for SpongeBob SquarePants. He's just a talented sculptor. But what I loved about him was that it's all traditional. He doesn't know a thing about 3D sculpting or 3D printing. So even though it actually makes the process take a little longer, we still managed to do it. We got it fully sculpted, casted, molded, hand painted in time for the campaign.
That's insane.
It just
They
was
look
not
they
cheap.
look so freaking cool. Like I
I wish I
kept
could
seeing
show
your
you.
posts on socials, and it was just like, dude, that's such a dope thing to have.
I couldn't believe it. Like I have an action figure, and that's going to retail too. That's something that we've got to factor into our spreadsheet. Okay, that's a new product that we have. How are we going to
Yeah.
make it? How are we going to manufacture it so it's affordable? Because right now it's not affordable to me, let alone the backers. Like I didn't get enough backers for it, even though it's an overwhelming love of response for it. But at $150 a piece, it was hard. But let me tell you, I didn't make any money off of $150 a piece. That was cost for me if you include the packaging and everything. But it showed me that there is a market for it. It showed me that the work that we did was quality enough that people were willing to spend 100. Collectors were willing to spend 150. And if I can figure out the process to include mass manufacturing, then I can charge cheaper, and a lot more people will be able to afford it, and a lot more fans will buy it. So that's how that happened. Very weirdly, but I'm very happy with that.
I mean, it's always like the more that I learn about new things, new processes, it's always who you know. And having that connection that says, I know a guy, like that's insane. I can't imagine like had you been, what else you could accomplish if you just put it out there. Like, it'd be really cool if we could do whatever. And someone's like, I might know a guy, and like, that
no. Did I lose you? Oh, the only downside to it is the intention was for NSF West characters like G.I. Joe style figures.
Okay, yeah.
But I backed up the sculptor, and so he's working into and through July to hit his deadlines for the Deadhead figure. And I'm like, you know what? I'm actually okay with that. Let's improve the process. And for NSF West Kickstarter Volume 2, I'll be able to do action figures. I'll be able to do it. Like I have Chris, we're going to do panties. We're going to do panties with character faces on the panties.
Of course you are. Yeah.
Why not? Why not? And the selling point on that one is if you want your wife to be okay with you reading these comic books, you can buy her something. You can buy her merch from the comic book.
Yeah.
And dress her up sexy with your favorite character's face on the panties. I am unique. I won't want to say uniquely. I know it's not uniquely, but I'm very empathetic to the plight of the husband who finds interest in things like these, but gets in trouble when he's interested in things like these. So if I can find a way to bring the husband and wife together in a funny way, I mean, that's not normal. Buying panties of a comic book character that is of a comic book that your wife wouldn't like. But if you can get her the panties and she realizes that the character on it is a funny ass character and says funny things in the comic book, maybe she might crack it open and see that it's more than just TNA. It's actually a laugh and a half. And
that's awesome.
All the panties idea came from my son, my oldest, who I'll say is about to be 22. So it's okay that he came up with this, I swear. This character right here is his character. He came up with Hard Hat because we're going to sell condoms in which Hard Hat's slogan is "Don't forget your hard hat." And she's got jackhammers for hands. She's got jackhammers for hands. This is my 22-year-old, and I'm like, that's going in the comic. Kid, that's going in the comic.
That's awesome.
And
I
love
the dad win of that too.
The what?
The dad just win? Yes, the dad win of like having your son involved.
Yeah. Oh man, he is so into it. I would say he's less into NSF West, or maybe he's just less willing to tell me he's into NSF West than he is some of the other properties. Like he loves Deadhead. I'm like, kid, I didn't even write that, man. But he's really into Watson v. Holmes because we'll get Watson v. Holmes in a second, but it's got his like one or two all-time favorite characters sort of mixed into one. It's got Dracula, it's got Sherlock Holmes, or not the Dracula, but that sort of concept, and he loves that. And that's an idea that I can't wait to release. That'll be September.
That's cool. Yeah, let's jump into that because I am a big Sherlock Holmes fan. And so
Cool.
seeing the few posts that you've already put out teasing it, I'm already like, dude, I'm in 100%. Because similarly,
dude, I'm
I'm ready for it, man. And with the September timing and hearing that there's, like vampiric stuff involved as well. Like I love horror comics. And so I think tell me about it. Like where did it come from?
So Watson is so I never thought I would do like a but I was watching I was rewatching Sherlock. Sherlock, is that the name of the one with Benedict Cumberbatch? I think it's just called Sherlock. I was rewatching that, and there was one line that stuck out to me, and boy, I wish I could remember it verbatim, and I don't. But the arrogance of Sherlock Holmes is what got my attention. The sheer arrogance that is only matched by his brilliance. That if it wasn't for his brilliance, he would just be an arrogant asshole.
Yeah.
And he said something along the lines of Watson was messing with him, like, you don't know how many planets are in the solar system. And he goes, listen, I don't waste time with information that is wasteful in this hard drive of a brain of mine. I'm not going to waste my time on what am I ever going to Pluto? Am I ever going to Neptune? No, then why would I give a shit? I use this magnificent mind of mine for data that's going to help me solve crimes, and that will never help me solve a crime. And the sheer arrogance and stupidity of somebody so brilliant lit something up in my head, paired with the fact that he was basically an addict in its original Sherlock Holmes, Arthur Conan Doyle Sherlock Holmes. He was a straight up drug addict. He was a morphine addict. He was addicted to opioids. And he had an explanation for that in the books. In the original stories, it opened up his mind to new levels and allowed him, who are addicted to ADHD medication, feel like their minds are expanded and they can do more. That's really what got Sherlock Holmes hooked on it. And so those two things were playing in my head at the same time as I'm watching Sherlock, and I had recently read the first book. And I was going through Kickstarter, and I saw an accidental image. And I say accidental because it wasn't what the Kickstarter image was. And I forget the name of the person's Kickstarter. The art was really good. It was like Sherlock Holmes versus Phantom of the Opera or something, right? Okay. And there was a scene of the Phantom of the Opera standing above Sherlock Holmes with like a red cape. And the red cape was sort of like enveloping Sherlock. And the image that popped, I thought it was Sherlock Holmes as Dracula at first glance. And then I looked at it again. I'm like, that's not Sherlock Holmes as Dracula. And then I thought, wait, he's a morphine addict. He does it because he wants to expand the power of his own mind. He's an arrogant prick. So he thinks he'd be able to withstand it. He would totally become a vampire on purpose if he lived in a world with vampires. He would think that amongst all other humans that are below him, that he could overcome vampirism and use its power for his own effect to be the greatest. And so Watson v. Holmes is the outcome of that idea.
That's
where
awesome.
Sherlock Holmes thinks he's brilliant enough to outthink vampirism, but that does not work. He is immediately turned into a villainous vampire, and hides away for 5 years to plot and plan because he wants to overtake all of the vampire cells in all of the world. He wants to be the number, even though he's the youngest vampire, He wants to be the most powerful vampire because of his arrogance, because that's who he is. Flip side to that, you got John Watson, who I think is an underserved character. I think John Watson should be lauded as a hero. I think he has that capability in him. I think he's smart, but he lives in the shadow of Holmes, and I always wanted more from Watson. And I know Sir Arthur Conan Doyle gave him some heroic moments in those original stories, and there's some in the TV shows too. But I thought in this story, where Holmes is a villain straight up, the best hero, the one who knows him best, would be Watson. Now, how can we make Watson a more heroic figure? I gave him a build like Dum Dum Dugan,
Nice.
Big burly Afghan vet, because that's what he was in the original novels. He was an Afghanistan vet, so he's a modern Afghanistan vet. And the jumping on point I thought would be, okay, this could fit into the canon of Sherlock Holmes' storyline if when he falls over the waterfall and is killed by Moriarty, we cut it there. Nothing comes after that. And then we just zoom up the timeline by 100 years, right? So you just update everything by 100 years. Watson thinks Holmes is dead, but Holmes went off and became a vampire and is going to come back to fuck with him, basically. In that 5 years, Mary, his wife, has died. And he had a daughter with her a few years before. Now she's an adult. And she, in the book Watson v. Holmes, she is like the Sherlock Holmes analog in that she is the investigator. She has the mind of a detective. She's got the inquisitive mind. And Watson needs her to help solve the case, but he is the hero of the story. I don't want to get into any of the spoilers, which is really sort of the stuff that is the inciting incident that I should be prepared for, but I'm not prepared in this podcast to really give you what sets the story off.
Sure.
But we'll say that you'll see it in the Kickstarter campaign. We're going to do a little video that is the first inciting incident where Sherlock Holmes attacks a young woman, and Watson, by way of convenience or serendipity, is tied to the case tangentially and feels connected and has to solve the case without Sherlock Holmes, not knowing that Sherlock Holmes is the one who committed the murder. So
that's awesome.
It will be discovered by Watson and his crew of not Sherlock Holmes people to follow this case, discover that the vampires exist, and eventually discover that his best friend Sherlock Holmes is one of them and the most dangerous vampire. Think about the mind of Sherlock Holmes. If he was a vampire, he would be the most dangerous vampire to ever walk planet Earth. And I can't wait to play with that.
That's awesome. Dude, I'm hooked already. Like all of those things, I'm like, yes, perfect, yes, excellent, yes, please, yes. So yeah, I'm super here for it, man.
I can't believe nobody's done it before, because it's almost obvious. You know, like that's exactly what Sherlock Holmes would want if the opportunity was there.
Yeah, it's all that arrogant piece of with the lore of vampires already seeing themselves as above humanity because humans are just like blood cattle for them anyway. Like it plays directly into that arrogance of like, my brain's way better than yours. Like I'm not a simple human. Yeah, and like I love that.
Exactly.
It's so good. Sweet.
Oh man, I can't wait to show you. The art on that is Jordan Rodriguez. He's a young artist. He's really, really good. He's got some great designs. And then that cover. Did you see the painted cover where Sherlock has got the young, where he's got the young woman by the arm, like the sort of like the it's not really an homage to the Ross Joker and Harley, but it's a black background and they're dancing like that. He's got the woman with his back to him, and he's got the violin bow. And he's playing her neck like it's the violin and blood is draining down.
That's awesome. That's sick.
Yeah, you gotta check it out. It's on my Instagram. You gotta check it out.
Okay. And perfect segue. Man, this is all hitting so well. Where do people find you on Instagram to see that, or any other like social media platforms?
Iron Age Comics Iron like the metal, age like how old you are, comics like comic books. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok, even though my old ass has not quite figured out TikTok yet. I can watch TikToks, but I don't know how to get people to watch mine.
Yeah.
Maybe it's patience. Maybe I'm running out of patience for social media, but I'll get there. I'll get there.
That's quite all right. Well, I've got the campaign linked for NSF West below. I've also got that social media handle included so that anybody can just copy it and paste it into the platforms where you are. Those are the end of my notes, but I have two more things that I want to do. The first is super easy. I like to take a screenshot. We're going to pose, and then I'll use that as the YouTube thumbnail on this video going forward. So we'll do that. Let me get my keyboard shortcut here. All right. I am all set. If you want to get your books up there, I'm going to do some like one of these things. All right. 3, 2, 1. Perfect. The other one is what I gave you the heads up about. Is I love doing this show because I talk to people with all sorts of different backgrounds and all sorts of life experiences and ways of life, and yet we all share this commonality of loving, making and reading and collecting indie comics. And so I love being able to give each creator some space to just share your voice. So if there's anything you want people to hear from you directly, it could be a pitch for NSF West. It could be why the Deadhead action figure is the greatest action figure in comic book history. The content doesn't matter at all to me. It's just a space for you to share anything that you want people to hear directly from you. So, John, floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. I think the first thing that comes to mind is less of a pitch for any individual book and more as I try to figure it out myself this last 6 months, is what Iron Age Comics is, what sets Iron Age Comics apart. And I think really for me, that comes down to how much of a fan that I am and how much of that I want to put into the comics. So, I mean, listen, this is just free thinking off the top of my head. I'll share with you something that I've been coming up with recently. And in terms of like a slogan or branding, what I'm leaning towards is like better comics for better fans. And that idea came to me because I was reading a marketing book and they were talking about how it's so important to make your customer the hero, right? Of any brand. The customer has to be the hero. And I thought, well, that's fitting for comic books. So better fans. And then I thought, well, what the heck makes a better fan? What's a good comic book fan? And I only know what it means to me to be a comic book fan. So I was tossing around a few things like unslabbable. Like I don't hate CGC. I really don't, but I don't CGC basically anything because I like reading the comics. I like collecting the comics. I keep them in pristine condition. Always have, always will. But just putting them in a tomb has always bothered me. So I thought maybe something about not slabbing, but I'm like, you know what? I don't want to put down. I don't want to yuck somebody's yum. You could have people who love reading the comics and always buy that second copy because they want to slab it. And more power to you. God bless you. So I said that's not it. What makes a better fan? And then I was juggling another problem that a lot of creators in the industry, at all levels in the industry, even Marvel, DC, struggle with, and that is issue 2. Issue 2, no matter if it's Kickstarter or on the retail shelf, issue 2 is always drop. So I thought, how can I solve the problem of losing so much on a new that I can't make an issue 3 or 4, but also somehow give back to the fans? And I don't want to give away too much, but I will say that Iron Age wants to solve problems like that for the fans. I want a fan to be able to show loyalty and love of having a comic book series, collecting the physical form of comics, right? Which is why the print media is not dead in comic books comparatively to other print media, that everything is digital. Digital comics exist and they make their market in that space, but they don't do anything compared to physical because we love collecting comic books. So what I came up with, and I won't share here yet because I don't want anybody stealing my idea just yet. I came up with a way to reward readers for picking up physical copies of the comic book issue 2 and issues, and every issue that you collect, if you can prove to me that you collect it, like with an Instagram post, there is a very special gift that they will get. As you can't get it in retail, you can't get it online. You only get it in response to proving to me that you are a good fan, a loyal fan who loves the series enough that you buy consecutive issues. And the more issues of the series you buy, the more reward you get. And I'll get specific with it maybe on a future podcast. But
That's cool.
I just wanted to share that in terms of problem solving for the love of collecting comics. It's something that, just like the connecting idea of the, as silly and ridiculous it is, and as fun as it would be to try to aim for Guinness Book of World Records, it's a cool thing. Like, as a fan, I've collected Connect covers, puzzle covers, and I love them. I think they're cool.
Yep.
And I always thought, well, I can't display this too. I can't display that. But maybe somebody would want to display the largest set of connecting covers ever made. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Anything that I can think of to make collecting the comic book in the physical format special, I want to try it. And I'm not going to succeed every time. I totally understand that I'm going to fail sometimes. And I'm going to take the risk just because I love comics so much. And I want to see other people take risks. I have other creators that are my peers, and they often laugh and ask me, what new cockamamie idea do you have now? But they come up with cockamamie ideas of their own too, because it's fun. Fun, and it's fun to collect. Like, I've got my own stuff collect along with everything else. And I just hope that as Iron Age grows a following, that I can reward collectors for being good comic book fans, for reading through issues and knowing the characters and understanding story arcs, which I will tell you that I feel, as a fan, disconnected with Marvel and DC over the years, because I felt like instead of being rewarded for loyalty and understanding a continuity, that all that gets upturned like somebody angry because they lost a chess game. It's just, all right, sales are down. Let's just throw it all away and start all over with a new continuity. And that turned me off so much that the only thing I can read in mainstream comics is Elseworlds type stories, Batman stories outside of continuity, because I love Batman, and I always felt the best Batman stories were outside of continuity. But I just don't have a love for them anymore, because I feel like that they don't treat longtime fans with respect, or they don't care enough about longtime fans. So that's what I want to try to do. I'm not the first to come up with that. I know other people, like Radiant Black has a whole universe. I know that there are others trying to do it, and I just want to carve out my space in indie comics and do something special for people. Maybe I'll get some fans out of it. That would be great. I've had some people at conventions come up to me who've read my books before, and there's no greater feeling than connecting with somebody over something that I either created or I had a hand in creating and publishing. It's a good feeling. It's a really good feeling to connect eye to eye with fans and talk about characters that are meaningful to them because they're meaningful to me as a creator.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to share.
That's cool. I love it. I don't have anything that can even come close to topping any of that, so I'm not going to try. John, I appreciate you coming on, man. This is a blast talking to you. I love your approach to comics and your approach to being a publisher that's willing to take chances. And I think that mindset is what makes the indie space so magical, because we can take chances like that and do things differently and try stuff. And if it doesn't work, you learn and you move forward. So I appreciate you coming on, man. Hang tight. After I end this, I got some logistics for you. But for everybody else that joined, I saw some of the folks sounding off in the chat and having fun. I appreciate it. If you're if you like this, subscribe and do the YouTube stuff and hit the buttons and whatever. But more importantly, like, support indie comics and support indie creators. So what's a good podcast without a good tagline? This one's mine. Go do what's good for you, punks, and read some indie comics, because we are out of here.